Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. So on today's episode, we have another guest with us, and we're going to continue the theme of mental health. Past couple episodes, we've dove into like the many different realms of spirituality, mental health, so on and so on. So we're going to stay with that theme as well too. So on today's episode, we have with us a guest author and speaker as well too. We have Jamie with us. Jamie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Jamie. So I'm a social psychologist, author, life coach. I've spent many years working in the nonprofit sector, working with hospitalized children and their families, then worked for a domestic violence and sexual assault agency, all in the program development, program management side. So had a lot of experience there working with lots of trauma, and my personal background comes from childhood trauma and depression growing up, and that's kind of what led me into psychology in the first place, and then just kind of fell in love with it and with the idea of learning and studying and applying and trying to find ways to help others as I grew personally and as I went through my healing journey. And that's where I ended up getting my master's degree in social psychology, specializing in trauma, and then started writing the books. So that's where I'm at.
Well, that answers my first question, because my first question is, what brought you here? Because, psychology, like those of us that actually practice psychology, you don't just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to help people through trauma. It's usually because we went through a shit ton of trauma that we decided to get into this field.
Yeah, that would be a pretty poor choice to just jump right into.
Yeah. If you don't have experience in it, it's hard.
Yeah. I went through when I was a child. It was just me and my mom when I was younger, and she died when I was 8 years old. And after that event, I had to go live with my dad, whom I'd never even met. So I was immediately after the death of my mom thrust into a new town, a new home, a new family, a new school, everything. And my dad was psychologically, emotionally abusive as I was growing up. And so that made life extremely difficult. I never really got the chance to grieve properly. Ended up starting to suffer with depression. Dealt with that for many years, leading up to a suicide attempt when I was 18. And then I didn't even really begin my intentional healing journey with depression until I was probably about 23 or 24.
You wrote a book about depression.
Yes, that's one in the series that I have just released. Yeah, so there's 4 in the series. One on anxiety, one on clinical depression, PTSD, and adult ADHD.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
Yeah, ADHD is fun. It's always fun. All right, so what's your core philosophy behind your approach to mental well-being?
My core philosophy is that it should be a holistic approach. I think, talk therapy and medication are absolutely important pieces of the puzzle, but I think we've typically sold a lot of people short in that, okay, you go to therapy and you talk about your feelings for a while and you just get better. Or you take some pills and your symptoms go away or lessen and you're good to go.
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, it's not that easy, and I really, for many reasons, but for one, it takes away our autonomy by kind of having that mindset, and it's a social thing. We see it on TV. People go to therapy, and most of the representation we see on TV is not accurate anyways, but I mean that's true for almost anything. But we see people going and they go to the therapist and they talk for an hour and then they walk out and that's it. And all of a sudden they know how to fix their lives. And again, those are very important pieces of the puzzle, but definitely not the whole thing. And there's so much more that long term is so much more beneficial than those two things.
Give us an example, in your opinion.
Yeah, so right off the bat, physical health is mental health. The body and
Amen
the
to that.
mind are 1000% connected. They have an effect on each other. There's proven time and time again, cause and effect. Even when you look at just trauma. So let's say you're a child and you go through some trauma. Might be abuse, might be like me losing a parent. Uh, who knows? It could be anything in that realm. That trauma literally causes your nervous system to rewire in your brain. It's like, you see trees, how branches grow on trees, and a branch grows this way and goes that way, and that's how the neural pathways in your brain are developing when you're a child. They're going this way, this way. Well, if you have good stimuli, they go this way. If you have bad stimuli, they go that way. So it physically rewires your brain, which also has an effect on the rest of your nervous system, which also has an effect on your immune system, your digestive system, everything. So physical health is mental health. So by the time you know, get through this struggle and you're starting to, be on your healing journey, whether it's, as a teenager, as a young adult, even as an older adult, physical health, you gotta start building those habits of exercise and diet that's going to engage your system in healing itself. And little by little over time, you will start noticing, differences in not just the way you feel, not just the way you think about, bad memories or bad feelings, but just your overall health and wellness. So yeah, that holistic approach is so important and so important.
Yeah, it's become the theme. So,
Mm,
for some reason, for this season, inadvertently, without trying to, we have made it our theme. Um, we've talked a lot, at least this season, about somatic therapy,
hmm
and I don't know what order that these episodes are going to be released. When they come out, they just kind of, I put them in this program that randomly shoots things off for me.
Okay.
It's a nice program, but it kind of screws me up on timelines. Um, so I don't know where we're at with what episode this is compared to like what people have been watching, but
Uh-huh.
on this season alone, I think almost every episode is tied into thematic therapy and the holistic approach. So it's interesting, like to hear you as well too, to come on to say, well, talk therapy, and we at work, like I'm a drug and alcohol counselor, so like at work, like we've been talking a lot about this too, where it's like, maybe we need to do more than
Yeah.
just sit here and like let's not relive the trauma, let's
Yeah.
not do this.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100% on the holistic approach, and especially exercising, man, like working out, like you can tell, like you can feel it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So in your experience, right? So let's make this more about you. What's the most misunderstood aspect of mental health that you feel?
Um, I would say there's two things that are still very misunderstood about mental health. One is that it's a choice, that people still to this day are like, well, you just need to think positive. And I'm like, dude, if that was all
Why
there was
didn't I
to
think of
it,
that?
seriously, I mean, you know what? I mean,
Yeah.
if that was the case, hell, I would have like 30 years ago just been watching Star Wars and Marvel cartoons, and I would have been happy, and that would have fixed all that. Um, it's not just a choice, and I kind of get it because if you haven't been there, if you haven't been through something, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
Um, so there's still that misconception that it's just a person's choice, and that and then people even get, I've seen people get frustrated. They're just like, oh, you're just, oh, especially like when I was a teenager, man, some of my family members, they would be like, oh, you're just attention seeking, and I'm like, no, what, in a sense, yeah, I'm literally crying out for help here. I'm sitting here thinking of killing myself. Oh, yeah, I'm attention seeking, but not in the way they meant it. Um,
Right.
and so, yeah, that's definitely still the case with that. And I would say the second one has a lot to do with men's mental health, in that the stigma is still so strong that we still have today the statistics that 80% of suicides are men.
Yeah, I just read that. I just read this morning about the statistics and that, and like I find it funny because like I was dealing with a client at work today, and like we were talking about how he was scared to set a boundary because every time he tries to set the boundary, the wife tells him how insecure he is. And I'm like, I mean, that's society in a whole is like, God forbid you say like, hey, this is my line in the sand, because then it turns into, well, you're just insecure. You should think different, and then
Yep.
it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's still, and we're raised as men, even from, little boys, oh, don't cry or brush it off, man up, those kind of things. And so, of course, by the time we get older, hell, we're afraid to say anything. And then the minute you do, like you said, it's like you're judged. It's a no-win situation, and so we have no choice but to stuff it down, just get over it, work through it. But you can't bottle something up, forever. It's going to come out somewhere,
One way or
either
another.
in your physical health, your mental health, your relationships. So yeah, that stigma is just still, it's still there. We're better, I think, than when I was younger. Definitely see a lot more conversations, like even like this podcast. This is something that we didn't really have when I was a teenager or young adult. We didn't have people coming online and through video or audio, either one, and really talking about it. These issues. So it's improving, but yeah, we still got a long ways to go in that area.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We far, far, far away. We've got to go. So all right, let's go into childhood, right? So like how does childhood traumas affect your personal mental health in this social development?
So there was a cool study done. Unless you're in the psychology field, you probably haven't heard of it, but it was done in the late 1990s. It was called the ACE study, and that stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And this Dr. Felitti, it was in California. He did this study, and it was just a random survey of like over 17,000 insurance patients, because he worked with the insurance company there. And what they were trying to do was show a link between uh, childhood trauma and physical disease in adulthood. And they were hugely successful. Hugely successful. It was like just mind blowing, the results they got from the study. Basically, they had this survey, and it had 10 questions, and all 10 were different different types of trauma in childhood, and the people doing the survey just said yes or no. Yes, I had this, no, I didn't. So there was some about physical abuse, there was some about physical neglect, there was some about emotional and emotional abuse and neglect, and then household dysfunction. And so the physical abuse, you can kind of figure that out. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. That could be, you know, literal physical abuse, could be sexual abuse. The neglect, no food, um, emotionally low attachment, so not caring for their needs and desires as a child, and then household dysfunction, things like If you had a parent with an untreated mental illness, if you had a parent in prison, if your parents got divorced or separated, those kinds of things. Those were all in the survey. So if you check one, it was just 1 point. So basically the people ended up with a score from 0 to 10. 0 being none, 10 being all of them. And what they found was that by the time a person got to 4 or more, it was causing major increases, like 4 to 8 times the normal rate of physical diseases in adulthood just from that childhood trauma. Everything from cancer to obesity to diabetes, you name it. And by the time they got to 6 or more, so if you had 6 or more on this test, and you can go online and find this, and you can take a test yourself, just ACE. But by 6 or more, people average had a 20-year less lifespan
Mm.
just from that. That's how effective, how much of a negative effect this childhood trauma had. Well, that study was so successful that it was picked up and recreated, and they started realizing, wait a minute, it's not just the physical health. This is also applying to mental health in adulthood. It's also applying to social health in adulthood. Socially, like one of the examples, there's been several studies, but one said that in prison, with men, about 60 to 80% of the prisoners had a ACE score from 6 to 8. So there's a direct correlation there between social behavior. So yeah, that's how strong of a link and how important the idea of us understanding trauma and its effects are, and how we look at things like physical disease, mental illness, and even social issues.
That's interesting. I forgot all about that study, to be honest with you. I wrote a paper on it when I was doing my master's degree. I forgot all about that. I might have to go reread that. But anyway, side thought, ADHD, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So let me ask you this: so explain to us the connection between PTSD and everyday anxiety and depression? Because right now, like at least from like my point of view, from like in my world that I see, the anxiety has gone sky high. Like almost everybody's coming in diagnosed with anxiety, right? And two sides to this coin. One side is the overdiagnosis of it, because we do have that in our world. Like I don't I don't know, like I remember like when bipolar became the thing. Like all of a sudden everybody had it. And
Yeah.
anxiety is almost the same thing right now.
Yeah.
So explain anxiety and the connection between PSD and anxiety.
So yeah, so with PTSD, of course, that's directly from trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. So a person has to have, 5 qualifying symptoms to meet that. Things like, one, they have to have experienced a traumatic event, which is the actual or perceived threat of death to yourself or someone close to you. They have hypervigilance, hyperarousal, those types of things. Often have nightmares or night terrors of the trauma, and are usually um, uh, dissociation from either themselves or the place or people that cause the trauma, that kind of thing. So anxiety tends to come with it, though. So you can imagine being hyper vigilant or hyper aroused all the time. Everywhere you go, your subconscious is looking for danger. So you're already on like high alert.
Right.
So anxiety being that, you have in your body this a present reaction to a perceived future event. And that's really where anxiety lays, as opposed to like fear. Fear is a current reaction to a current real threat. But your body, your nervous system, and subconscious have that reaction, but like all the time, when you have anxiety, and that's clinical anxiety, along with other symptoms, problems sleeping, problems eating, some of the things that are kind of common with almost all mental illness, which again goes back to that mind-body connection. They're not separate. So of course, you might be talking about different, mental illnesses or different conditions, and you have some of the same symptoms because it's your body. You're going to have same symptoms.
Right.
And with PTSD, so it kind of brings along anxiety or depression, sometimes both. Along with it is what, in the professional field, they'll call it comorbid, but it's the same thing as saying coexisting. It's just happening at the same time. It just might not be the top level, disorder or condition that you're dealing with. It might be like, the backseat driver type thing. So yeah, anxiety and depression are very common, comorbid or coexisting with PTSD. So they kind of make each other worse in a sense.
Yeah, I mean they all kind of go together, in a sense. So, all right, so depression, right? So one, because you just read, because I did just see the book from you on that, and I did like skim through some things. So, tell me about depression, right? Like from your lane, two-part question on this, right? Is one, kind of explain a little bit about depression, and then for those that are listening, right, what are some self-care recommendations for somebody battling depression? Because this is the stigma one. This is the stigma of like, well, just get up, go get a shower, like just go to get. What are you doing? You know.
Uh,
So two-part question there.
so yes, depression is. I like to talk about depression in terms of grief
Okay.
because grief is something that any and every person can experience, even if you never have clinical depression. They are almost identical, except that grief, you can pinpoint the cause. You can say, my mother passed away, or I've worked this career for 20 years and I just lost my job and I don't know what to do. It's a loss. It is something identifiable. Um, with depression, it generally starts in adolescence, sometimes as early as older childhood, but generally adolescence. And it starts including things like trouble sleeping, trouble eating, having that feeling of deep sadness, like deep sadness for days, for weeks, sometimes a low level depression for months. And it comes and goes. So it might be there for a couple of weeks and then gone for a month or two and then come back, so it comes and goes. So it doesn't just, it's not just a one-time thing and then just goes away. It's there. And it causes you to lose interest in things that you would typically enjoy. So if you enjoyed, certain types of movies, certain hobbies, even friendships, doing things with your friends or family, you just don't enjoy it anymore. It's just not interesting. And it also comes with that deep sense of unworthiness, being unloved, kind of turning on yourself, that super negative self-perception. Like life's just not going to get any better. And depression is really hard. I mean, I remember there were times when I can remember struggling, like just laying in the floor crying, for hours just because it was so heavy, so heavy. It's like an emotional weight, like someone just standing on your chest. And God, it's tough. It's so tough. It's so tough. And you know you're going through it. You know what it is, and you even know that you would like help. But that negative self-perception says, no, people don't care about you. People don't want to help you. You're a burden to people. If you go and talk to someone about this, if you tell your friends, if you tell your family, they're not going to want to help you. They don't want to hear it. It's just going to be a burden. These are the things that rumination, those thoughts that just constantly go around in your head, when you're suffering from depression. So it's a beast. It's a beast. It's tough. Um, when it comes to practical self-care, like I've said before, medicine and therapy absolutely are important pieces of the puzzle. Just don't stop. Don't just take it from there. Keep going. Do your homework. And my number one, my motto, I guess, in life and for helping people is become a student of yourself. Get a journal. Get a journal. Start taking notes, just like if you were studying for your master's degree. If you go to school, go to college, and you're studying a subject, what do? You read about it. You take notes about it. Do that for yourself. Do that for yourself. Take notes. Write down, okay, here today's date, I feel like crap. I can feel it. I feel the depression. That's all you got to do is just take some notes. And then when you come out of it, then you can look back and say, okay, the hard part of this lasted me about 6 days. Okay, and then if it comes back next month, the same thing. All you're doing is writing the dates. And from there, you can start progressing. Then you can start saying, okay, what was I thinking during this? What was I feeling during this? And the more you journal, the more you take notes and just learn about yourself, then you can start figuring out, okay, this is how long this lasts. This is how it affects me. These are the things that helped. These are the things that didn't help. So that's the most important thing to me is just become a student of yourself and learn as much as you can about what you're dealing with.
Well, big fan of the journals. I push people constantly. When they come into our rehab, the first thing I do is hand them a tablet and say, "You've never done this before, but you're gonna. Like, this is what we're gonna do."
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. All right. So this is one of my favorite questions somebody asked me. And I've been asking people this that are in this profession because it's great to hear everybody's answer, right? So, in your opinion, what is one mistake people often make when trying to fix their mental health?
A mistake they make when trying to fix their mental health.
I know it floored me for a minute too. I had to really think about it.
I'm trying to think back. I honestly have learned so much, not because of school, although I did, my bachelor's, my graduate work, I learned so much. The most I've learned, though, is through my own journey and personal experience. I would say for me, and I think this is probably is common with a lot of people, and that is not taking more time and being more intentional about my support system, about the people, even the ones I knew that cared about me. I kind of let myself be dictated by the mental illness a lot. And I wish I hadn't. If I could go back, I would. Even when I was, starting exercise, even though when I was looking at specific things in my diet and journaling, I still was not being as intentional as I should have been about those relationships. And years later, it started clicking. And years later, I started being like, yeah, I need to work on this piece of the puzzle more. And I did. I started working on it. It made as much difference as everything else put together, pretty much. So I would say that's my hot take on that one is it hurts to go through, anxiety, depression, PTSD, even with ADHD. ADHD, one of the kind of the newer, I don't know if it's new, but to me it's new, is, this idea of RSD, which they call rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So it's kind of this newer thing that people with ADHD tend to have this rejection sensitivity that's much higher than the average person, so that when someone is even saying something neutral, we kind of take it as critical. And so that makes it really hard on relationships. because you kind of go right back to that negative self-perception and that internal, negative talk of, well, people don't really love me, people don't really care about me, people don't really want me around and stuff like that. And you just have to fight it. You have to fight it and say, nope, that's not true. If I can pick one or two people, friends or family, that I can be intentional with, I just need to do it. I need to work on that piece of the puzzle.
Like it. You wrote a whole series. What motivated you to do that?
So in my own personal journey, I learned early when I was going for my bachelor's degree. I started it to learn about myself. I started as part of my own personal journey. I wanted to study psychology, depression, what I had been through with trauma, losing my mom, being abused, growing up. I wanted to learn. And the more I got into it, of course, I was just, intrigued, fascinated, and I just kind of had the sense in me that I wanted to help other people too. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go into, one-on-one therapy, and I'll go and work with teenage boys that are like in the system, foster care, parents are in prison, that kind of thing, young addicts. And I ended up,
Did you go to Child Protective Services?
no, I went and did an internship at a boys' home, a local
I
boys'
went to
home.
Child Protective Services. It's amazing on how many people go to CPS.
Yeah.
But
Um,
side note.
yeah, it's a good place to go in the line of work. But I did this internship and at this boys' home, and it totally wrecked me. Man, I'm telling you, in 3 months I was done. I couldn't handle it emotionally. You know, I would go home and cry. But I learned something. I learned that one, I wasn't as healed as I needed to be effective in that role. And two, that I was so empathetic that that probably wasn't the role for me. So I got finished my bachelor's, and a couple years later went into the nonprofit field, into program development and management, and that's where it all clicked. Oh, I can be helpful, I can be useful and beneficial just in a different role, just doing different things. When I go out and create this volunteer training program for this organization, I know how to teach these people of what to say and what not to say because I've been there myself and because I understand what these people that we're serving, whatever the clients are, I know what what they're going through, what they need to hear, what's going to be helpful, what's just going to be a platitude. So I was able to use my personal journey and what I'd learned in education wise, but just in a different way. And by doing that, as I grew more, as I healed more, as I grew professionally, I realized, I want to help people on a bigger scale. I want to do more. And one of the best ways I can do that is kind of through education, but not really as a teacher, like one-on-one teacher. And so I started doing public speaking. Like when I worked for the domestic violence agency, I would go and do press conferences, for the news whenever there was a story, a local story about it. I would go speak at colleges, things like that. And so that's kind of what onboarded me into the idea of writing. So when I was working on my master's degree, that's where I started my writing and said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to pick these issues and write a book in a way that I think is going to be beneficial to people, say like with anxiety, to one, help them to have a better understanding of it, of what they're going through, and two, give them very practical strategies for what they can do now to help lower their symptoms and to start building a long-term healing path. So that's how I got there.
You said something very important, that I wish more people would recognize, right? Like when you were talking about your past experiences, and that's the ability to understand when you're not efficient anymore,
Mm.
right? And how hard that really truly is. Like, cause like I know like even myself. So I used to work in drug and alcohol. I left drug and alcohol. I went to Child Protective Services,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I worked there for about 3 years, and I had a bunch of cases that were all sex abuse cases. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. Like, I'm not helping anybody because I'm going home at night and I want to, like, for a lack of better terms, I just want to kill everybody. Like, I'm going to a dark place.
Yep.
I got to go back to substance abuse.
Mhm.
When I tried to go back, having that conversation, because I was talking with the judge at the time and
Mhm.
trying to explain to him like I'm not good, and he's like, no, 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 you're fine. Like you're very beneficial, and I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I I belong with the dope fiends and the felons. Like
Yeah.
those are my people. That's where I belong because
Yeah.
that's where I'm beneficial at.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that I think is the hardest thing. Because like if I'm honest with myself, I was only efficient at my job for like maybe 2 years. That
Uh-huh.
last year of me working there was it was just pulling on me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't efficient. And like I wish more people would understand that it's okay to say, this just ain't me. Like
Yeah.
I'm not doing good here. That's a tough animal.
It's just something that
It's hard.
in the human mind just not it's something that just shouldn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I really don't know a better way to put it, but in our world, in our existence, it's something that just shouldn't be there. So when we have to encounter it time and time again, it's just too much. I mean, it's you
Yeah.
know, but something I noticed then when I worked in that field was that there isn't enough education and onboarding in the professional world, especially when you're talking about the human service uh, fields, that vicarious trauma and secondary traumatic stress are part of the job. When you're working with victims of anything, mental health, crime, trauma, any of those things, those two things come with it, and there we don't have enough of like I said, onboarding education to teach people, hey, look, this is what's going to happen to you. This is part of it. This is normal. You can't sit and listen to people's heartaches and struggles all day every day without it affecting you. And there needs to be more put into place to help people deal with that as part of their jobs in these fields.
Yeah, I think I spoke at a college one time on for social work, and I was sitting there and like God love them. Like I guess I forgot what it was like to be young. Like I was watching all these kids and they were gonna change the world, and I'm like, hold up, all of you that have had trauma, I need you to understand. You're gonna relive your trauma every day trying to help somebody and like the toll that that takes on you, and this is why self-care is so important. um but yeah, no, man, I'm glad that you recognize that because
Yeah,
that's extremely important, especially with working with youth. If you're working with youth, your presence matters a lot,
yeah,
and if you're
yeah.
just not if you're not there, it's not good. It's not.
Right, yeah, it's you're hurting yourself, and you're not being effective like you said earlier. You're just not effective in what you're trying to do and want to do, you know,
Yeah,
to help others. Yeah, the self-care you have to have very regular systems in place in terms of exercise, diet, time off, um, you know, all those things are just so important. You can't just say, oh, well, this is just normal things that people do. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional
yeah,
about it. And I think, at least from what I've seen, and I've heard others that have had many, many, decades and decades in the human service field, is that you have to have a good mentor or
yeah,
supervisor, leader, some whatever you want to call it. You got to have someone that you can go and vent to that understands why you're venting. Your spouse, when you go home, of course, you want to be able to tell your wife or husband about, yeah, the day was hard, it was this, blah 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 blah. And they can be very good listeners and shoulders to cry on, but at the end of the day, too much of that, and you're turning around and passing it right on to them, and they can't be your therapist. They can't be,
No,
your.
that's why we have the highest divorce rate in any profession.
Yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
My thesis paper in my master's program was mental health issues among law enforcement, and law enforcement has the highest suicide rate of almost any profession, and the cases of undiagnosed and untreated PTSD are just through the roof, and it's because they every single day almost, they're exposed to trauma, even if it's secondary. They're still exposed to it, which has an effect. And yeah, you've got to have professionally, the systems that we have in place have to do a lot better about trauma-informed care for employees so that we can keep doing a good job in helping the people that we serve.
Yeah, I agree. So, out of your series of books, what was the most challenging one to write? ADHD, probably, because you probably had to go 20 different places.
Yeah, so I ADHD was probably the most. This is going to sound really bad. ADHD was probably the most enjoyable one to write.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Depression, the
fucked up
depression,
people.
the depression one was probably the most difficult because I lived with it for so long that I had to be very intentional about not bleeding onto the page. In other
Ooh,
words,
yeah.
these aren't autobiographical books.
Right, right.
I have no qualms about sharing my story and trying to let people know that, hey, look, other people go through this too, and you can come out on the other side. So I'm not shy about that. But these, like I said, were very intentional about, giving people something, tangible to lead them and help them. And so the depression one was probably the most difficult. The ADHD, so I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until about 5 or almost 6 years ago now. And I think I say it was the most fun because I haven't spent that long learning about it other than, a little bit here and a little bit there. But when I really dove in was when it was like, okay, wait a minute. I've been having this, and this. This sounds a lot like ADHD, but I've never had ADHD. And then, when I was diagnosed with it officially, then it's kind of like, well, hell, now let's dive in and learn more about this. And I've just learned so much about it over the past few years and I think as a science, we have really just blossomed in our understanding of neurodivergency. And
Yeah.
to me, it's just amazing the things
It's
that we've
getting better.
learned. Yeah, yeah, it's so much better. Like how the spectrum, the coexisting issues like anxiety, depression, things like that.
I'm impressed with the spectrum and like that we're putting it on that because like I think the one thing about ADHD because I'm severe, but the the one thing that with ADHD that I always hate is the misdiagnosis of bipolar with it because of the way that the minor inconvenience will set you into a rage, but it's not really a rage. It's just like a and then
It's a
it's no,
frustration.
I'm fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right,
then it's I'm fine. Like
right, yeah. But the
and
frustration goes from like a 2 to a 8.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So then it's like, oh, well, you must be bipolar, and it's well,
Yeah,
hold on,
I
slow
know, right?
down.
Yeah, right. It's only lasted like maybe 10, 15, 20
Yeah,
minutes. We're not talking about three
yeah,
days worth of. Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
we've definitely come a long way.
yeah, and I think the knowledge and especially getting it more public of the idea of a spectrum, I think it's so beneficial to people because there's a lot of people that may have autism or ADHD, and some of the common symptoms, they're very low on the spectrum, so they go for years without, just like me. I there's many of the symptoms of ADHD that I had growing up and as a young adult, but I always thought they were either attributed to the depression or just attributed to me being weird, me just being a nerd, and oh, okay, well, I'm got this superpower of multitasking. Well, yeah, when I was in my 20s, I could handle it. But, as I started getting older, it was like, okay, wait a minute, this is getting out of control. I can't keep up with this. Why am I starting 9 projects and can't finish any of them, or finish one and then just kick it to the side? So the idea of the spectrum, I think, is so important because it helps people be like, oh, okay, well, I do have this, and this, but it's just very low, and it gives you a tool. It gives you something, because, you can't fix something you don't know about, or you can't make adjustments, to how to live your life better. Like with me, as soon as I kind of put 2 and 2 together, then I was like, okay, me using a bunch of lists and a bunch of sticky notes or journals or calendars, I can actually make that effective to me now. It's not just a weird thing I do. It's actually helping my brain, because my brain doesn't function in a way that can just say, okay, I've got these 5 things to do today, and I'm going to keep them in my brain and check them off one at a time. My brain doesn't work that way. But if I know that, I can take and say, okay, here's my list, here's my priorities. If these 2 things today, I'm good to go. The other 3, if I get to them, great. If I don't, it's no biggie. I can carry them over to the next priority. Those are the kind of things that you can say, okay, now I can learn these tools that are effective for what I need.
Right. Yeah, I like it. Do you got any more books you're putting in the series?
Yes. So I've got, so along with those 4, I just also released a Managing Mental Health journal. So it's out now on Amazon, and it's a actual paperback, so you can order that, and it has like 50 different prompts, and they're all meant specifically for self-reflection. And and the next one's in the series. I've got
I'm gonna have to check that out. That might be beneficial for some of my clients.
Yeah, could be. So yeah, I have a few more that I want to cover. I'm kind of working on a workshop right now, and so I'll probably get back to the books in a couple of months or so and move on to the next one. But one of them I want to cover is substance use disorder, so addiction. I absolutely want to cover that one. I think that's so important. And
that is our specialty over here. That's
yeah, and it's so anything with mental health, I think, is equally as important for family members, friends, and loved ones to read, because it will help you understand what your loved one is going through, what they're dealing with. So that that was kind of also in the back of my mind when writing these, and the ones I plan on is to give other people an opportunity to learn more about these issues.
Nice. Where can we pick them up?
So you can go to my website, which is managingmentalhealth.net, and the links to all 4 books are on there. They're available worldwide. They're ebooks, so you can download them off of whatever platform that you like, whether it's Apple Books or Kindle, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, Kobo. Yeah, so you just pick the book you want and follow the link, and it'll give you all the options, and you just pick the one that you like. And actually right now, if you go to my site, you can get the journal for free as a PDF download. So if you have the ability to print that out, or if you have a PDF reader on your laptop or whatever, you can use that as a resource as well.
How long is that going to be free for?
Probably at least through July, the month of July. So
this probably won't come out till like October, November. So
oh, okay.
Well, so it's not free anymore. You're screwed.
Yeah, if you can edit that or come back, there might be.
That's fine. We'll keep it in.
I will probably have another promotion by then of some sort, you know. But
Alright. Well, I'm
but
gonna download it. I'm gonna download it because I want to check it out. It would be it could. I like finding stuff like that because it's very beneficial for my clients. Because we're a drug and alcohol rehab center, so like we have inpatient clients
okay,
and
yeah,
outpatient too. We have inpatient and outpatient, so it'd be
yep,
beneficial.
oh yeah, absolutely,
But I'll put all your links though. You just they can't get the free one, so they're screwed. But
yeah,
I'll put the links in the description um, for everything.
all right, yeah,
Uh, um, they can find you where? On Facebook,
yep,
Instagram?
yep. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all under managing mental health. And same thing, if you just go to the website managingmentalhealth.net, you know, social media links are on there as well as, you know, email. So if someone needs to reach out to me, um, there's a form if people are interested in coaching, individual life coaching. That's all on the website too.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us and coming on and sharing your experience and all this and your
Absolutely,
knowledge. You definitely got a
absolutely.
lot of good knowledge. So, for those of you that are listening, man, you guys could have been anywhere in the world. You sat here with us for 54 minutes, so I appreciate you. Hopefully you heard something that helps you. If you did not, there's a billion podcasts in the world right now. Everybody's got one, so just go find one. I don't care where you get it, just get it. You need help, get help. Don't care where you get it from. If it ain't from me, find Joey Bag of Donuts. He's got a podcast. So we appreciate you though for listening, for sticking with us. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. You.